Imagine a building that contained every book ever written, every scientific discovery, every philosophical insight, every poem, every map, every medical treatment known to humanity. Now imagine watching it burn. The Library of Alexandria wasn't just a building. It was the accumulated wisdom of the ancient world, centuries of human genius stored in one place. And then it was gone. We lost knowledge that took thousands of years to gather, cures for diseases we still can't treat, mathematical formulas we've only recently rediscovered, maps of places we thought were unexplored, all of it reduced to ash, lost forever gone. But here's what nobody tells you. The Library of Alexandria didn't die in a single fire. It died slowly, piece by piece, over centuries. And the reasons behind its destruction reveal something disturbing about human nature that still applies today. The dream begins. Around 300 BCE, a man named Ptolemy had a vision that would change human history. He had been a general under Alexander the Great, and after Alexander's death, he inherited Egypt. But Ptolemy wanted more than just land. He wanted to build a city that would make Athens look like a village, all the knowledge of the world in one place. And so the Library of Alexandria was born. But this wasn't just a library in the way we think of them today. It was a research institution, a university, a think tank. The greatest minds of the ancient world were invited to live there, given free room and board, and asked only one thing in return: think, write, discover. Scholars came from every corner of the known world: mathematicians from Greece, astronomers from Babylon, physicians from Persia. They all gathered in Alexandria, sharing ideas, debating theories, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. The library grew to house an estimated 400,000 scrolls. Some historians believe it may have held as many as 700,000. Every ship that entered the port of Alexandria was searched. Any books found were confiscated, copied, and the copies returned while the originals stayed. The library was hungry for knowledge, and it would do anything to acquire it. But even then, in those early days of glory, the seeds of destruction were already being planted. Golden Age. For nearly 3 centuries, the Library of Alexandria was the intellectual capital of the world, and the discoveries made there, they would make modern scientists jealous. Genius. Eratosthenes, the library's third chief librarian, calculated the circumference of the Earth using nothing but sticks and shadows. His answer was accurate to within 1% of modern measurements. This was 700 years before Columbus would sail, thinking the Earth was much smaller than it actually is. Aristarchus proposed that the Earth orbited the Sun. He was right, but his theory was rejected for another 800 years, until Copernicus came along. Those who know do. Those who understand teach. Euclid wrote his Elements at Alexandria, the geometry textbook that would be used for the next 2,000 years. Hero of Alexandria invented the first steam engine, called the Aeolipile, in the 1st century CE. Imagine that. Steam power, nearly 700 years before the Industrial Revolution. Steam engine, ancient times. Why didn't they use it to power machines? Because they had something else: slavery. Why build machines when humans could do the work for free? It's a chilling reminder that knowledge alone isn't enough. You need the social conditions to apply it. And speaking of social conditions, the library was about to face its first major threat: Caesar's mistake. 48 BCE. Julius Caesar lands in Alexandria, chasing his rival Pompey. What happens next would become one of history's greatest accidents. Trapped in the harbor, surrounded by enemy ships, Caesar made a desperate decision. He ordered his men to set fire to the Egyptian fleet. The flames spread faster than anyone expected. The fire jumped from ship to ship, then from the docks to the warehouses near the harbor. And those warehouses, they were full of scrolls waiting to be cataloged and added to the library's collection. Estimates suggest that between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls were lost that day. The exact number is still debated by historians. But one thing is certain: irreplaceable knowledge vanished in those flames. Centuries of accumulated wisdom turned to smoke and ash. Here's the tragedy. Caesar probably didn't even know what he had destroyed. To him, those warehouses were just obstacles in a military campaign. The greatest collection of human knowledge meant nothing compared to winning a battle. Some historians argue that the library itself survived this fire, that only the warehouse copies were lost, but the damage was done. A precedent had been set. Knowledge could be sacrificed for power, and this wouldn't be the last time. Slow decline. After Caesar's fire, the library continued to function, but something had changed. The Ptolemaic dynasty was weakening. Egypt was becoming a Roman province, and the library's funding began to dry up. Budget cuts, priorities shifted. This is how great institutions really die. Not in a single dramatic moment, but through slow neglect, through budget cuts that seem reasonable at the time, through the gradual departure of scholars who can find better opportunities elsewhere. In 30 BCE, Cleopatra lost her war against Octavian, and Egypt officially became part of the Roman Empire. The Romans valued the library, but they valued it as a symbol of conquest, not as a living institution. Fewer scholars arrived. Fewer scrolls were acquired. The building itself began to deteriorate. What is not maintained decays. By the 3rd century CE, the library was a shadow of its former self. The scholars who remained were more interested in preserving old knowledge than discovering new truths. Innovation gave way to preservation and stagnation. And then came the religious conflicts. Christianity was rising in Egypt, and with it came a new threat to the library. Not because Christians hated knowledge, but because the library represented the old pagan world. A world that some believed needed to be destroyed. Religious wars. 391 C. Emperor Theodosius I issues a decree. All pagan temples in the Roman Empire must be closed or converted to Christian churches. In Alexandria, this meant targeting the Serapeum. The Serapeum was a temple to the god Serapis, but it also housed a daughter library, an overflow collection from the main library. When the Christian mob attacked, led by Bishop Theophilus, they weren't just destroying idols. They were destroying books. Scrolls were torn apart and burned in the streets. The contemporary historian Socrates of Constantinople described the scene. Statues were melted down, paintings were burned, and the books, the precious, irreplaceable books, gone. Now we need to be careful here. Some historians argue that the main library was already gone by this point. Others believe significant collections still existed. What's certain is that religious zealotry destroyed whatever remained in the Serapeum. Ignorance is the mother of devotion. This wasn't about Christianity specifically. It was about what happens when ideology trumps knowledge, when being right becomes more important than learning truth. Ideology over truth always wins. And yet the story wasn't over. There was one more destruction to come. The final blow. 642 C. Arab forces under General Amr ibn al-As conquer Alexandria. According to later accounts, when Amr asked Caliph Omar what to do with the library's remaining books, Omar gave a chilling response. If the books agree with the Quran, we don't need them. If they disagree, they're heresy. Burn them all. The books were reportedly used to heat the city's bathhouses. There were so many scrolls, the story goes, that they burned for 6 months. Now, many historians question this account. It was written centuries after the fact, possibly as anti-Muslim propaganda. The library may have already been completely destroyed by then. The truth is, we will never know exactly what happened, but the story endures because it captures something true about human nature. The ease with which we destroy what we don't understand. The arrogance of believing our current beliefs are the final word on truth. Whether Omar actually gave that order or not, the Library of Alexandria was gone. And with it, incalculable treasures of human knowledge. But what exactly did we lose? The answer is more devastating than you might imagine. Lost forever. Let me tell you what we lost. We know of them only through references in other works. Ghosts of knowledge, ghosts of lost knowledge, the complete works of Aristotle. We have maybe 1/5 of what he wrote. The rest, gone, burned, lost to time. The 47 books of Livy's History of Rome, we have 35. What was in those missing 12? What secrets about Rome's founding might they have contained? The complete plays of Sophocles. He wrote over 120. We have 7. 113 plays vanished. Berossus wrote a complete history of Babylon, with astronomical records going back hundreds of thousands of years. Gone. The medical writings of Herophilus, who performed the first systematic dissections of human bodies. Lost. He may have understood things about human anatomy that wouldn't be rediscovered for 500 years. Maps of the ancient world, mathematical proofs, philosophical treatises, poetry, drama, history, all of it destroyed. To burn a book is to burn an entire world. And here's the most haunting thought of all. We don't even know what we don't know. There could have been discoveries, theories, insights that we've never even imagined. Ideas that might have changed history if they had survived. But they didn't. And now we'll never know what they were. Dark Ages. After the fall of the Library of Alexandria, Europe entered what we call the Dark Ages. Was this a coincidence? Not entirely. The light of ancient knowledge had been extinguished. Medical knowledge regressed. Roman surgical techniques were forgotten. Bloodletting and prayer became the primary treatments. The germ theory of disease wouldn't be rediscovered for over 1,000 years. Architectural knowledge was lost. The Romans built aqueducts and heated floors. Medieval Europeans lived in drafty castles without running water. Progress reversed knowledge forgotten. Scientific inquiry was replaced by religious dogma. Questions were dangerous. Curiosity was suspicious. The earth was flat. The sun revolved around us. Anyone who said otherwise risked death. Regression. Now, the connection between Alexandria's destruction and the Dark Ages isn't direct. The library was already declining before Rome fell, and medieval scholars preserved much ancient knowledge in monasteries. But the loss of that central repository, that beacon of learning, contributed to a culture that valued faith over evidence, tradition over innovation. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. It took centuries to climb back, centuries of rediscovering what had been lost, and in some ways we're still climbing. Modern lessons. You might think we're safe now. We have the internet, we have backups, we have libraries all over the world. But are we really that different from the ancients? In 2021, a fire at a data center in France took down millions of websites. Some data was lost forever. The average lifespan of a web page is just 100 days before it changes or disappears. Digital formats become obsolete. Who can read a floppy disk today? Digital decay is real. And then there's deliberate destruction. Book banning is rising globally. Governments censor information. Algorithms decide what knowledge reaches us. We are building new Alexandrias and burning them at the same time. The lessons of Alexandria are brutally relevant. Knowledge is fragile. Institutions that seem permanent can vanish. Political conflicts, religious extremism, simple neglect, all of these can destroy centuries of accumulated wisdom in an instant. The only thing we learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. But there's also hope. We are more aware now. Projects like the Internet Archive and the Wayback Machine are trying to preserve our digital heritage. The question is whether we'll learn from Alexandria's fate or repeat it. The real tragedy. Here's what haunts me most about the Library of Alexandria. It wasn't destroyed by one disaster. It was destroyed by many. By Julius Caesar's military campaign, by budget cuts and neglect, by religious fanaticism, by political indifference. No single villain burned the library, it was all of us. The library died because people stopped caring, because short-term power seemed more important than long-term knowledge, because being right felt more valuable than learning truth. Arrogance destroys what wisdom builds. And this is the real lesson. Every generation faces the same choice: preserve knowledge or destroy it, question our beliefs or impose them on others, invest in understanding or sacrifice it for convenience. In the long run, The sword is always beaten by the spirit. The Library of Alexandria stands as both a testament to human potential and a warning of human failure. We built the most impressive repository of knowledge the ancient world had ever seen, and then we destroyed it. Not once, not twice, but over and over again across centuries. Why? The answer, I'm afraid, is that we are still learning what the library tried to teach us. That knowledge is precious, that wisdom must be protected, that the work of generations can be undone by the ignorance of a moment. The scholars of Alexandria knew something we've forgotten. They knew that the light of knowledge is fragile, and that it's our responsibility to keep it burning. The Library of Alexandria is gone. We cannot bring back the scrolls that burned. We cannot recover the knowledge that vanished, but we can remember why it mattered. Remember, preserve, protect knowledge. Every time we fund education, we rebuild Alexandria. Every time we protect free inquiry, we honor those ancient scholars. Every time we choose understanding over dogma, we prove that their work was not in vain. The library is not a shrine for the worship of books. It is not a temple where literary incense must be burned. A library, to modify the famous metaphor of Socrates, should be the delivery room for the birth of ideas. The real library was never the building. It was the idea that knowledge belongs to everyone, that truth matters more than power, that understanding is worth fighting for. That idea survived the fires. It survived the religious wars. It survived the dark ages. And it survives today in every library, every school, every curious mind that asks, what if we could know more? The truth is never comfortable, but it's always worth knowing. History has more to teach us. Subscribe if you want to learn.